minutes now. It is overcast conditions out there. Those storms continuing to roll through the area. And in the studio with us, we want to welcome them to the studio. Members of the team from COVE is live in the studio with us. And over the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about a subject that we should be talking about more often. And that is, it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month this month. But it's a topic that we need to be and have those conversations about, because there are people in our community that right now that are going through things that they shouldn't be going through. And so over the next few minutes, we're going to be talking with Chelsea as well as Bethany here in the studio about this topic. And I think the biggest thing that I would love for the listeners to and the viewers to take away from this is that we have the resources, we have the ability to help ourselves with those resources, and be able to help others and not feel ashamed by it, not feel like there isn't that we have to take a back seat so that other people can do that or make that first step. And Bethany, I'm hoping that I'm somewhat on the right track in regards to this, because big cities, we talk about things that happen, and trafficking and sexual assault and things that shouldn't be happening. But you know what? In rural communities like ours, this happens here, right?
Sure does. Thanks for having us, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming in. And as well, Chelsea is in the studio too. Chelsea, good morning to you, and thanks for coming in this morning.
Good morning, Chris.
Let's talk about COVE in general, and we rewind listeners, Chelsea, about COVE and the resources and the opportunities for them to get help. What's the foundation of COVE if, let's say, somebody just moved to the area? What is COVE and how does it help?
Yeah, of course. So COVE is Communities Overcoming Violent Encounters, which does include domestic violence and sexual assault. So we have our emergency shelters specific to domestic violence victims and their families, and that looks different for each case, and it can be female, male, elderly, children. We service everyone that is in the need. And our focus is basically that victim focus. So we help them to know what all of their options are and to get to what's the best decision for them at that time.
And it's important. And it's right off of Ludington Avenue. People pass by it all the time, and it's on the south side of the road. And remarkably, and I think last time you were in, I didn't even realize this, there's a backside of COVE. COVE is huge right there, and there's a lot of resources. So just to summarize, if you don't mind, the resources, the physical resources that are available there at COVE.
Yeah, so we have 6 individual apartment shelters, which is very special to us. We're the only ones in Michigan that does that way, so it's a little bit more individualized versus community living. Mm-hmm. We also have 24/7 services where there's an advocate on site, so that way if someone does come in at wee hours of the morning or whenever they make it to COVE, that we're there to support them and help them. We have different groups during the week, and we have outreach so that you don't have to necessarily be in a situation where you need shelter, but they can be there to support you alongside both the sexual assault and domestic violence.
All right, and we're going to be talking a little bit more with you about this. Chelsea, for the listeners and the viewers, and I say viewers because this is streaming live right now on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel, so you can watch this segment. You can also listen to it right here on your radio, your smart devices like your Amazon Alexa, your Google Home, and it's streaming at WMOM.FM. But Chelsea, your role at COVE, if you don't mind sharing that with our listeners.
Yeah, of course. I'm the development director, which is a fancy way of saying that I work on all of our social media as well as all of our events and helping build relationships with the community and with donors.
All right, and we're going to be talking about that specifically here in a moment. Let's turn our attention this morning. Bethany, you are in the studio with us. Bethany, you are working a lot with those individuals that are going through sexual assault experiences, being able to trying to get them to go from this point where it is I don't want to talk to anybody. And again, I'm making some assumptions here too, but my assumption is that a lot of sexual assault victims, it's hard for them to either move out of that situation or to talk to people about this, right?
That's correct. So part of my role at COVE is one victim-centered. So I do work with victims and survivors of sexual assault. It's also the community advocate with the community, where I go out and raise awareness to the public and to some of the resources that we use. I talk a lot to law enforcement. I'm in the court systems, and just bringing that out into the public, because I don't think the public's aware of how big of an issue this is in our community.
Well, and this is your platform right now. If you don't mind taking this time, how big of an issue is this here in West Michigan, in our local area that we're in right now?
So sexual assault is huge, and it affects every community, no matter the size of the community. The problem with sexual assault is it's not always reported. There's a shame to it that people feel, and it's a very personalized thing. And people don't realize, because a lot of sexual assault is not reported, so we probably don't have the correct numbers. It's probably a lot higher than the statistics we see. The statistics are 1 in every 3 women have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime. 1 in every 9 could be a child. And children usually, especially in our community, the ages are like between 12 and 17. So it's huge here, and I think people need to realize that, and that's one of the importances of the Sexual Awareness Month, bringing that information to the community.
Yeah, I know time is probably the major factor in my next question here, but victims don't come in and talk about that because obviously over time there is that stigma of shaming or embarrassing or that. Have we broken through that a little bit? Is it getting better for those victims to be able to discuss this, or is this pattern just continuing like we probably have seen for generations?
I think it's getting better because we're bringing that awareness, and victims now know that there's a place they can go that's safe, that they can talk, that their confidentiality is secure at COVE. And again, we service victims that maybe have just experienced sexual assault and it's very fresh in their minds. Or we also can advocate for people that experienced sexual assault in the past, whether it be a year ago, 20 years ago, whatever, and they haven't dealt with it yet. We can offer services for them if it's just coming in and being able to talk about that, and being aware that this is more common than you realize, and that so many other people share this this trauma with you, and so we offer services to help them with that.
2 things that come to mind, and we're going to be talking about those services again during this segment. And if you're just joining us, Chelsea and Bethany are here from COVE. We're talking about Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It is this month, but it's a conversation that needs to happen every month throughout the year. Bethany, as you were talking there, 2 things came to mind. Is there 2 types of people when it comes to the victim? The one that goes through that experience for the first time, and they're probably shocked by it, and the other person, which is probably a victim that is the repetitiveness and just kind of just absorbing that, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's the right word, but and doesn't want to share that. Is there kind of that 2 victims, and can you explain what that experience or what they're thinking or going through?
And that there's reasons for that, and walk them through that process with them, and assure them that regardless of which way they go, if they want to report their case, or if they don't want to report their case, that we're here with them, and we will walk with them through the whole process.
Do you see that that people are when we put things in front of them, that resources, that they're more apt to talking about them, or is it still reluctancy?
No, I think they're more apt to talk. I think a lot of times, too, it's the surprise of, oh, you offer that resource, and that'd be great if I can tap into that. And then the feeling that, oh, I'm not really alone. You're really going to do what you say. And so they don't realize how many resources we do have out there for them.
All right. We're talking with Bethany and Chelsea here in the studio. Chelsea, let's talk about those resources that are available to people. Where do we start when we start that conversation?
So it kind of, excuse me, it does depend on where the person is at. We do have a SANE exam, which is a sexual assault nurse exam. It's, for lack of a better term, a rape kit. And those are up to the first 120 hours that would be able to help with that portion of it. And it is forensically tested and checked and everything like that. And so Bethany is one of the women in the shelter that would go through that with them and kind of be there if they need them. So that's one of the biggest things that we do offer, but we do have that advocacy and support to help with any like court paperwork that needs to be filed, anything like that. If they need help finding apartments, kind of just giving them what's the steps that they need to take next to keep them safe and mentally comfortable as can be in that situation.
All right, and by the way, our listeners and viewers, if you have a little bit of that internet breakup that happened here, we have that storm cell that's moving through, and you probably hear a little bit of that outside that we've got going through. But this segment you can watch and listen to on our Facebook page in its entirety, and we're doing a backup recording of it, so we'll post that too. We're talking with Chelsea and Bethany here in the studio this morning about Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the phone number we want to make sure that we reiterate, so we want to put that out there. And we also want to say that it is, and I know we tend to lean towards female victims, but this is, and you mentioned this, Bethany, in the beginning, is that children, men, women, there can be victims that we have no idea that are going through this. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, Chris. We do advocate for men as well as women, because men also are in that population and can be sexually assaulted. We at COVE, we would only take on clients that are at least 12 years of age because of laws and state laws, but I know that that's something that we could be working on in the future. But we offer a lot of resources for people. Number one, the first thing we do is, are you okay? Mm-hmm. You know, and are you safe? That's the number one thing, keeping our people safe. And then we can offer, like Chelsea said, the SANE exam, and then some of the resources after. We might, part of the safety plans that we do, we could be supplying them cameras. We could supply them telephones, as sometimes their phones are taken as evidence. We can supply them with just different things to keep them safe at their home and when they're out and about, because a lot of times victims tend to also isolate. So we want to make sure that we can give them the tools they need to not do that and to be able to still try to live their normal life and get back into that normalcy.
What about law enforcement involvement? And by the way, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Chelsea and Bethany from COVE this morning. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is this month. When we talk about law enforcement involvement, that tends to potentially shut people down, or maybe give them more security, both ways there. How do you give them the reassurance on those individuals that, you know, and I'm sure this scenario comes up from time to time, well, I don't want that person to get in trouble. But that's a victim of that person, and so it's so confusing, I guess, in that sense. But how do you give them the reassurance when it comes to that law enforcement involvement?
Well, you know, we do work with the victims within the law enforcement. We try to help walk beside them with law enforcement and just assure them that the police department, the sheriff's office, the PDs are working to help them as a victim, to bring justice to them for what had happened to them, and also to assure them that everyone has a tool that they use. So law enforcement is, you know, they're tasked with proving that the crime happened. But a lot of times they are overwhelmed by that presence. So, you know, we reassure them. We can go to interviews with them. We can go to the court systems with them. We can go talk to the prosecutor if that's what they want. Right. And our organization is always victim-centered, so it's always about what the survivor wants.
Okay.
And we never force them into reporting to the police. That's always their choice.
Absolutely. One last question, and then Chelsea, we'll focus on some of the events that are coming up for COVE and how we can support COVE in their efforts to help those victims out there. Bethany, I don't know if you know this percentage or not, but what is that statistic or that of people that go through a support system and then come back to that person that they're being victimized by? Is it where they feel comfortable going back? Is it the safety? Is there more percentage of people that say, you know what, I'm shutting the door on that past and I'm not going to be victimized anymore? Where are we at in regards to that?
I think that depends too on the situation, because I think people don't realize, we have this stranger danger fear. And people don't realize that a lot of times these happen with people that we know. Most times they do. It could be, sexual assault encompasses a lot of things. It could be a rape. It could be a child sexual abuse. It could be, a family member. It could be a complete stranger. It could be a date rape type of thing, or, a drug-induced, issue, maybe out in one of the local bars. But a lot of times, as being a family member too, they have that, I don't want to get so-and-so in trouble. So sometimes it is tough because they have to go back into that situation. So we try to work with them to be able to, maybe if they're reporting it, so we can get that person out of the situation so that they can go back to a safe place. But we always recommend going back to a safe environment.
Yeah, and not repeating, because you don't want to see repetitiveness in those victims that are coming through the door. Chelsea, anything we missed in regards to that before we move on here in the segment, and in regards to Sexual Awareness Month and sexual awareness victims in general that we should remind the listeners about?
So I just wanted to give the number out since we did kind of talk about that. So it's 800-950-5808, and that's a 24-hour helpline to just talk to someone and get resource information or anything else that might be needed. But that's the basic. I think Bethany did a great job kind of overviewing. I know we never have enough time to talk about everything that is going into it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but let's keep that conversation going, and it is it's important that the 24 hours, day or night, if it's in the middle of the night, you can pick up that phone and get help, and somebody's going to respond, and it can be if you're in a situation where you need to get out of that situation right then and there, that phone number or even 911, obviously, they're going to react and they're going to get you out of that situation, and then you're going to be in the safe hands with the team from COVE. If somebody's at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning, they're going to be there at COVE for you, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, and we appreciate you being there. Because of that, COVE needs support, right? Financial support.
Always.
And so, what activities, what events can we talk about that will help that support effort?
Of course. So we just started a campaign called 1,000 Strong, which is our goal of having 1,000 reoccurring payment individuals within our 4 counties. And so we're looking for anyone that's interested in being a constant support of COVE, and it can be as little as $5 a month or as much as you want. Obviously, it depends on people's budgets on what they can afford, but even that $5 adds up very quick and gives us that sustainability to allow us to continue another 44 years. So that is something that is starting, and the information and everything will be on Facebook very shortly. Okay. And then the next coming event is actually our birthday bash. We have one event in every county, so it goes from April 28th is our first one, and it goes all the way through to May 20th. With different restaurants that are supporting COVE, and we're going to just kind of have conversations one-on-one with individuals, and it's an opportunity for the community to donate to the shelter, so they can bring in sheets, or they can bring in pillows or phone chargers, things that are on a list of items that the shelter is in constant need of, and then they can help the shelter as well as enjoy a fun event.
Okay, very cool. And what's the date range again for that?
April 28th through May 20th.
All right, so just around the corner for
Right.
that. I'm pretty excited. And people can find information on that Facebook
Yes.
website.
Yep. Facebook and Instagram is going to have all of our ticket information and sales, as well as the information of the actual events and dates.
All right, and it takes not only a volunteer army or employees there, but also the resources in the community to support this. And you're not only from COVE, but also Bethany. You work closely with the men's shelter too in the area, and that's starting to wrap up for the winter season. And so we still need to and then hopefully it was successful to give a warm spot and some food to those individuals, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the last count that I had, we actually serviced 51 men this season,
Right.
and it is wrapping up. I believe April 29th is our last night. So, we're looking at these people need the resources as well, and going back out into the community, and do they have places to live, and what will happen with them. And this year we really focused on building relationships with them so that we can kind of walk with them too when the shelter's closed to help them out.
And so the overall message that I pull from today, especially as we're going and we're starting April, is that that we need to obviously look out for our fellow neighbor, friend, family members, but also support those services that are in our area that are there for those individuals. It's kind of a full circle, isn't it? We need to be able to do that. Bethany, Chelsea, we appreciate you coming in. Let's drop that phone number one more time for those individuals that might be going through an assault, that are victims, and that hopefully know that they can get help.
Yeah, of course, Chris. It's 1-800-950-5808.
All right, sounds good. Bethany and Chelsea, thanks for coming in this morning. Let's keep that conversation going with the doors always open here at Mom FM, okay?
Thanks, Chris.
You got it. 9:49.
Chris.
Yep, 11 minutes now before the top of the hour here on 102.7. It's Mom FM.